This morning, Deuteronomy chapter 26, verses 1 through 12. This is the word of God. When you come into the land that the Lord your God is giving you for an inheritance and have taken possession of it and live in it, you shall take some of the first of all the fruit of the ground, which you harvest from your land that the Lord your God is giving you, and you shall put it in a basket. And you shall go to the place that the Lord your God will choose, to make his name to dwell there. And you shall go to the priest who is in office at that time and say to him, I declare today that to the Lord your God that I have come into the land that the Lord swore to our fathers to give us. Then the priest shall take the basket from your hand and set it down before the altar of the Lord your God. And you shall make response before the Lord your God. A wandering Aramean was my father, and he went down into Egypt and sojourned there. Few in number, and there he became a nation, great, mighty, and populous. And the Egyptians treated us harshly and humiliated us and laid on us hard labor. Then we cried to the Lord, the God of our fathers, and the Lord heard our voice and saw our affliction, our toil, and our oppression. And the Lord brought us out of Egypt with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm, with great deeds of terror, with signs and wonders. And he brought us into this place and gave us this land, a land flowing with milk and honey. And behold, now I bring the first of the fruit of the ground, which you, O Lord, have given me. And you shall set it down before the Lord your God, and worship before the Lord your God. And you shall rejoice in all the good that the Lord your God has given to you and to your house, you and the Levite and the sojourner who is among you. When you have finished paying all the tithe of your produce in the third year, which is the year of tithing, giving it to the Levite, the sojourner, the fatherless, and the widow, so that they may eat within your towns and be filled. This is the word of God.
All right, Labor's Day, and I'm going to take a break from the Matthew series, so I want to take this time and talk about labor. What do we labor for? Because work, to many of us, is a huge part of our lives. You spend a whole lot of time working. If you're working from 9 to 5, let's just say, can you imagine how many hours you are spending at work? Maybe you work even more a day, Monday to Friday, or even more so. Work is really a big part of our lives. And what do we work for? Your family make money, what do you do that for? And let's be clear on this. First, what work is. Sometimes it seems like people get confused with this idea, the understanding that work is given to us, came into this world because of Adam and Eve eating the forbidden fruit. Let me say this, work itself is not a curse. Work did not come into this world because of the fall of man, as God's judgment on our sin. Work was there even before the fall, even before Adam and Eve eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. God created human being, Adam and Eve, to rule over all creation, to have a dominion of all things. In other words, God made Adam and Eve and us to be the manager of this entire creation. We supposed to rule, have dominion, and make sure as we work and take care of all things, we must honor God in our work. Let me say that again. We must honor God in our work, doing His will. And we must reveal God to all creatures, in all creation, as God's image bearers. That's what Adam was created for. Whatever he does to honor God, for God has placed me to rule over all things as a manager. Probably if you own a business and you put someone as a manager, that's where we rule in honor of Him, doing His will, and revealing Him, His glory to all created things. And our God works. Work is not necessarily evil. Work is not suffering nor curse. When Jesus was accused by the Pharisees, that why did you break? Why did you do work on Sabbath day? And Jesus answered, it's because my Father works, so do I. God creates all things. God is sustaining all things even today. God is carrying out this work of redemption. Jesus pointed out, you go out and look at the lilies of the field. Who clothed those flowers of the field? Jesus points out, God does it. It's not just happening automatically if somehow many people do not recognize it, do not see it, but God is doing that each and every day. He's feeding each and every day birds of the air. He does it. He works. Work's supposed to be a blessing to us. Can you imagine when you work on something and it turned out to be good? Really good? Example, I went to a wedding last night, and we have photographers, and they took pictures, they're working, and they came up, ooh, really nice shot, they're happy. You work on something, farming, and fruitful. Our work's supposed to be abundant and fruitful, and we feel satisfaction from it. Happy, that's why people love this word, being successful. But what happened at the fall, because of disobedience and sin, this is what happened. Our work is cursed. In other words, our work became hard. Labor. We work, we put our time and energy, but it is hard to get the fruit, the result that we want. So often we are frustrated with our work. Often we are frustrated with our studies for college students. Man, I studied for hours and hours, so all day long, but I don't remember much. I flunked the test. How wonderful would it be, as much as put my time and energy, and then the results, like, I get it. Fruitful, wonderful. But even though our work became a hard labor, the Lord still blesses us through our labor, and in our labor, He meets our needs. He provides. That's God's grace, and that's where I'm going with you this morning, what I want to emphasize. So in our text, it emphasizes that God's people must remember the grace of God in their work and in what they do. So let's look into our text together. Okay? First, let me say this first. Our text is from Deuteronomy. Now, Deuteronomy is the final message of Moses to giving it to the Israel people. So as they came out of the Egypt, they are about to go into the promised land. On the other side of the Jordan River, as they just go beyond the Jordan River, now you are entering into the promised land. But God forbidden Moses going into the promised land with Israel. So on this side, on the other side of the promised land, Moses is encouraging, exalting, giving a final warning and blessing to Israel people how they must live once they enter into the promised land. So this is Moses' final message. And look at verse 1 of our text today. Would you turn to that? And Moses said to people, when you come into the land that the Lord your God is giving you for inheritance, and have taken possession of it and live in it. Wait, pause. These people need to go in there. Nobody's going to give them land freely. They need to fight. They need to go for a battle. And Moses is not saying, when you go in there, when you fight over and win, you take the land. with your power. That is not what Moses is saying here. The Lord is giving it to you. The land is not yours, but we need to fight. But we need to fight a war with our life on the line. Moses is making clear, if you possess the land, it is the Lord your God is giving it to you. That is not yours. How many of us see your own house, your own place, your own world in that way? I earned it. I worked so hard. I put my time and life and energy. I took it. No, it's like Moses saying, the Lord is giving it to you. That is not yours. That was not yours. He gave that to you. Keep going, verse 2. You shall take some of the first of all the fruit of the ground, which you harvest from your land, that the Lord your God is giving to you. And you shall put it in a basket, and you shall go to the place that the Lord your God will choose, and to make his name to dwell there. So at the harvest, they got to gather the first fruit of the harvest, and they got to go to the place where the Lord your God chooses. In other words, the Jerusalem temple or tabernacle before the temple's construction, they got to offer it to the Lord. Once they settle there, they do farming, harvest. This is the first thing they got to do. They got to give the offering from the first portion of the harvest, not the last. First portion, not the last. Modern people, since we are not farmers, we don't really grasp what is being required here in this text from these people, because we are not farmers. So it takes us a little bit of effort to sit down and think. So let me try to unfold this for you, okay? For many farmers in the ancient days, their yearly income, family income, was their harvest. You good? Whatever they gather from that year's harvest, that's what they need to live with, at least for 1 year. They do not have a monthly paycheck. They do not have monthly salary. There is no such thing like that for them. So with this harvest, possibly I need to live for 1 year for me and my family. And it is very possible that I need to live a following year with it. In the worst case, a few more years. Because there's no guarantee that you will have a good harvest next year or year after. Maybe famine can come. So whatever I'm gathering this year, we'll see. We never know how long I need to live, my family to live with this. And here, from that harvest, not after the yearly cycle is over and you get the next harvest, from the leftover. Woo, we got a good harvest again, so this is all leftover. Now let me take this and bring it to the Lord. That is not being commanded here. What is being commanded here is, at the beginning of the harvest, without knowing when the next income is going to come, you got to bring the offering to the Lord. That's what's being commanded here. Especially unlike modern day farmers, they do not have a sprinkler system. They do not have a water pipe that come in bringing water from the river or so. Not like our modern day. They do not have pest control system as we, our day farmers do. Literally, their next year harvest or income depends on natural rain, weather, whether they're going to have any problem with insects, plant disease. They never know. They have much less control on their harvest. So there's no expected income. Most of us do. You know how much you're going to make around next month, a month after. That is why we get loaned. We buy a car. And we do monthly payments. Spending this much is okay. Because I know how much money is going to come next month and month after, something like that. I expect it. For them, they have known. Why does God want Israel to do this? Offering from the first portion of the harvest. Now let me ask you, how many of you willing to give offering and tithe without knowing how long you have to live with that income? Maybe a year or two. If you are in this position, how much would you bring it to the Lord? And this was commanded to Israel people for what? First, at the first level, I think, one level, this is a real sacrifice. Sacrifice. Giving from the leftover is not sacrifice. There is no sacrifice. It's a leftover. If I share food with you that I ate and this is leftover, here, leftover, it's no sacrifice. This was a true sacrificial offering. Secondly, this required faith in God. I don't know about the next year's harvest, next year's income. I don't know how long my family need to live with this, but I give to the Lord this much, and I trust. The Lord had given me this land. The Lord had given me all these things, and He will provide and He will meet my need. This requires tremendous faith in the Lord. Thirdly, this was their worship. Worship. As I just said, because their harvest is really dependent on the weather, insects, plant disease, rain, so many variables that they cannot control, they really saw whatever they have is really given from God. If I had a good harvest, all the rain, everything went well, they really saw God has given this to me. Without God's blessing, I would not have this. As much as they had to be dependent on God in their farming, they saw their harvest as God's gift. So they offer the first fruit as expression of worship. All I have is truly yours. You gave them to me, so I thank you. So they give the first, they give the best, not the last. Not the leftover. And church, I wonder how many of the modern day Christians really see in this way. What they have, their house, car, their income, and do they really see as, Lord, you have given this to me, all of it. They are yours, and you gave them to me. How do I know this? How do I know that this is their worship? This is require faith and this is trusting Him, making a sacrifice. How do I know that? Because if you read the text carefully, they are not just bringing offering to the temple of Jerusalem. What they are required to do is, as they lay down their offering to the Lord, there are certain responses that they need to make. In other words, we see they have to say something as they give offering. They got to say something. So what do they have to say? Look at verse 5. Look at verse 5. This is from verse 5. I'm going to read all the way to verse 10. And this is what they had to say. You shall make a response before the Lord your God. This is what they say. A wandering Aramean was my father. And he went down to Egypt and sojourned there. Few in number, and there he became a nation, great, mighty, and populous. And the Egyptians treated us harshly and humiliated us and laid on us hard labor. Then we cried to the Lord, the God of our fathers. The Lord heard our voice and saw our affliction, our toil, our oppression. And the Lord brought us out of Egypt with a mighty hand and outstretched arm, with a great deed of terror, with signs and wonders. And He brought us into this place and gave us this land, a land flowing milk and honey. And behold, now I bring the first of the fruit of the ground, which you, O Lord, have given me. And you shall set it down before the Lord your God and worship before the Lord. Worship before the Lord your God in that way. They have to say the whole thing. My father was just wandering Aramean, and we didn't have much. We were small in number. We down to the Egypt. We were suffering in Egypt, but you brought us and you blessed us in this way. I am an immigrant. I came to the United States when I was in high school. And I remember the time that when my family first came here. And we didn't have much. We got a small one-bedroom apartment, and we were just living in there with few bags here. But now I see my family. I'm married. I have family, my house, my parents, my sister's family, all that. And as I look into this, and I say, we were just wandering people who came here without much. You have given us. Some of you, and at least your parents' generation or so, were immigrants. You don't have to be an immigrant in order to understand this. Maybe you moved to the new place and you have never been before. When I moved to Philadelphia to live there, I'd never been to East Coast before. I didn't know anybody over there. But I remember the time that I took just 2 large bags with some clothes and shoes and some necessary material. I just took those 2 bags. That's all I had. I went to the airport, and I got out of the Philadelphia airport, and I didn't know where to go. I was just standing there saying, whew. And after 4 years living there, when I was about to leave and try to sell and get rid of all the possession that I had, the furniture and everything, I clearly remember the one night I was just sitting there, and where did all this thing came from? I didn't have this. Not only God sustained me without lacking anything for 4 years in my life in Philly, but with the chairs, the couch, bookshelf, and tables, and the bed, and I didn't have this. And some people just gave it to me, and some people donated to me, and some people bought me. And what happened? I have all these things with me now. Even to this day, time to time, I look at my children sleeping next to each other, and I think, where did they come from? Now they are a huge part of my life, but just a few years ago, they were not even there in my life. I didn't have them. The Lord has blessed me with all this family and the things I have. This is why they had to respond in this way as they bring offering to the Lord. They were to remember what they were like before. And they had to be mindful of what the Lord God has done for them. We were small, we were wandering strangers. We didn't have the land, nothing, not this house, not this food, but you gave to us, you planted us, you blessed us in this way. We multiplied, you made us as your people. Church, they had to recount the surpassing generosity of God. Not that I earned this, I made it possible. But Lord, you gave to me out of grace and generosity. Brothers, sisters, do you see that in your life? Let me put it out this way. Do you live like that? Your position, your house, your car, your family, children, your marriage. Or you think, you know what, you know how, Pastor Billy, do you know how hard I worked without sleeping much, without taking a holiday off? I worked more than anybody. That's how I got to the point where I am right now. It's not just giving it to me. I worked hard. Let me say this. No matter how hard you work, no matter how smart you are, how talented you are, let's say if you were born in some countryside of Cambodia that I went to, or some countryside of Kenya, or Afghanistan, or so, no matter how hard you work, what kind of talent you have, I'm telling you, you will be poor if you were living in that circumstance. What they have is no opportunity. What they're going through is not a small paycheck, but starvation. Starvation. Not distasteful, bad quality water, but no clean water. Not mediocre school district, but no education. Not old-fashioned technology, but no electricity. Really, at nighttime, the whole village is just dark. They have no electricity, no refrigerator. If you were living in the area, it doesn't matter how hard you work or how smart, talent you are. You basically have no opportunity, nothing to begin with. Let me put it this way. We all heard the news, what's going on in Texas around Houston area. If that happened, it doesn't matter what kind of company you work, whether your house is huge like a mansion or small, whether you make this many figure or not, you graduated from this college or dropped out of the high school. Rain and flood and just came, they lost everything. All of them suffering. They had to evacuate, give up everything, go out of that place. It doesn't matter if the disaster comes. You have, all that you have is only because of the grace of God. Everything I have is only out of the grace of God. I do not mean to downplay your hard work, but I'm saying that the fruit of our labor comes from God alone, out of His generosity. Unless the Lord watches over, the watchman's work is meaningless. Unless the Lord establishes the work of our hands, it will not stand firm. So, if you believe that, what we need to think about is, do I live like that? Do I really see that my possessions, my house, my family, as belongs to Him? What do you do with them? What do you do with them? They were to give their first, best, and almost, not the leftover, not the last. And that was required worship. I am not just talking about offering, church. I am talking about also about your time, your heart. He wants your first, your precious time, your utmost time, not when my time, not the leftover time, when I am not busy. But let me ask you, who in our modern day, I never met anybody saying, I'm really not busy, nothing is happening. I'll say, not never, let me take it back. I'll say 8 out of 10 is they say, I'm really busy these days. You said it last month, you said it this month again, you will say it the next month again. I'm really busy. would you make time, your first, utmost time for the Lord? Not the leftover. Not when I really have nothing to do. Brothers and sisters, let's be honest. We have time for something. We always have time for something. It's just a heart matter. We always have time to do something. Go watch a movie. We always make time for that. Watch my favorite TV series. Or have a cup of coffee and talking with my... We always have time. It's just a matter of heart that I'm making. Now, the other important things that we need to see here is what's written in verse 12. Let's turn to verse 12. When you have finished paying all the tithe of your produce in third year, which is the year of tithing, giving it to the Levites, the sojourner, the fatherless, and the widows, so they may eat within your town and be filled. Now, the second thing that they need to do, the sojourners, fathers, widows, the orphans, widows, those people who are poor, who needs. The Levites are the people who work at the temple. They do not own land or the work on farming. Basically, they are like ministers. But especially those people who are poor, people, sojourners, just travelers, just widows, you give to them and they may eat within your town. Because all you have is out of God's generosity and grace. What he's saying here is now you must live your life of grace to other people. Grace to other people. The love of God must flow from you to others. The grace you have received must flow to others. Christian must be generous to the people. I was reading this and I tried to think about how can we do this. I think Christians must be generous and thoughtful, caring to the people in Texas. People who lost everything because of the flood. Maybe we should get some donation. But we don't even have to look that far. I don't know many of you know about this or not, but one of our members' house just got flooded with water by accident a couple of weeks ago and is severely damaged. He might have to pay for his neighbors because it's a townhome and the houses are connected and the other houses got damaged too. And the insurance won't cover that. So I was thinking maybe we should work together and gather something. Be part of this. I don't know. I'm going to ask our deacons to lead this, organize something. Maybe for the people in Texas, I don't know. It's up to them. Or we need to think about the people in our mission field. Those people who are living in poverty. I know they didn't do anything to us. They didn't give us anything. They didn't do any favor to us. Why should we care? Why should we help? Because we have received the grace. Because everything that we have is out of God's generosity and grace that is far beyond us. Because we receive in Jesus Christ everything that we need, that we do not deserve of Jesus Christ, all his blessedness. Church, remember what Jesus said. Are you with me? I'm almost done. If you give this food, water, clothes, or visit, or take care of a little one among you, our Lord Jesus said, you have done it to me. On the last day, the king will say, you did it to me. Lord, when did I do? When you did to the little one, you did it to me. We are the stewards of what God has given to us. We receive grace in Jesus. He gave his life and all the blessing. We must be blessing to others. The Lord always turns our attention. Remember what kind of grace you have received. Say it, worship it, but do not let it be the end of it. Go. Be gracious to other people. This week, one of our missionary from Myanmar is coming and visiting here. I think he's going to stay 2-3 weeks. I'm hoping that we can have some mission support night on one Sunday. And we can hear his mission story and we can gather and give gift to him, supporting him, showing our appreciation and support, having a dinner together, something like that. Committee leaders, we gotta plan this, think about this. Brothers and sisters, I don't have it here, but let me just say this. I am not preaching on this message today because for that mission support night. No. Actually, it was the other way. I was meditating on this, and I try to come up with what is the application that I can give to my church? Something that we can actually take action and we do and obey. And I thought about it. We actually plan, Pastor Chase knows, we actually plan BBQ Day for September. That's one thing that we do all the time in September every year. It's just barbecue day. I remember last year we had a barbecue day at Janet Eno's place, and it was so hot we had to move to a different place. This was time, so we planned actually the last Sunday of September as a BBQ day. And I called Pastor Chase like, you know what? Let's cancel that. Let's do something different. Maybe we can come together and support our missionary. Gather something and give. We want to be people obeying. Am I not the pastor of this church? Am I not supposed to give you the direction? This is where we're supposed to go? So please, one Sunday now, let's do this. I'm done. We have received everything through grace of God. So we labor for the grace of other people. That's what we work for. Not just to expand my house, store up more. We labor, work for that. We make money for that. Let's pray.